Hey, happy Friday and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And thanks for tuning in to Correct Me If I'm Norm here in beautiful radiofreerhinecliff.org. I'm here with this week's very special guest, the way overqualified Allison Crosby Chawla.
Thank you.
Allison, thanks so much for being here.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
I want to pick up just where we were. So we were talking before the show officially began about generational trauma. You said, there's a name for that.
There is. Generational trauma is also known as a multi-generational, not close enough to the mic, multi-generational emotional process is what it's called. So essentially it is a type of trauma or a habit that's passed down through generations. You know, like we were talking, there's a lot of that came out of the Depression. A lot of that sort of like, you should be grateful, we didn't have food when we went to bed, and that really causes a lot of anxiety, and that gets passed down to people. This sort of fear. A lot of people that were grandchildren or children from the Holocaust survivors have a lot of that trauma as well.
Interesting.
And there's studies on neurofiring that suggest that these things do imprint themselves in DNA, and then you can inherit the trauma.
That's what I find so extra amazing. I mean, that it gets sort of like somehow passed down.
Absolutely.
You know, intellectually or emotionally, but that it gets passed down in DNA.
Correct.
How do you have any idea, how do they prove that? Or is it just a theory at this point?
At this point, it's still a theory. There's a lot of research going on, but what they look at is the types of folds in the brain, for example, and the way the neurological system fires. And so if you think about through evolution, you know, we had tails, you know, many, many thousands of years ago, and then we can see the changes in the body. You can also see the changes in the brain.
Right.
And then they look for repetitive shifts in people that have experienced particular types of traumas to look for patterns. It's fascinating.
It is so fascinating. And I guess now's a good time to introduce you to people listening at home. Allison, I've got something off your website. I'm just going to read this.
Oh, you went to my website.
Allison holds a clinical master's degree in social work and psychotherapy from Fordham University Lincoln Center and a life coaching certification from Life Purpose Institute in San Diego. And before obtaining clinical degrees, Allison mastered certifications in Reiki, energy healing, meditation, and meridian tapping for anxiety. She also holds certifications in applied neuropsychology and neuroscience for treating anxiety, worry, and panic, and continues, to study in all of these areas. So that's, in case anybody's tuning in, like, why is he asking her this? It's because this is her special area of expertise. And as I mentioned, she's way overqualified.
Oh, that's very kind. I certainly don't feel that way. I'm actually studying for another license.
I was going to suggest that you get more licenses and certifications.
I don't believe in stopping your growth and learning. And in a field where I'm working with such a delicate demographic group, I think it's so important for me to keep learning. There's new theories. Just like we were talking about, you know, it's still a theory in the way trauma is passed down. And, like, you know, if I can learn that and I can learn to specialize in that at some point, fantastic.
Right. Huh. Yeah, I was thinking as you were describing that, when I was a kid, we had to be members of the Clean Plate Club. And it was, you had to eat all the food in your plate. And I thought, what came from my parents growing up, my dad especially grew up poor during the Depression.
Right.
But I looked it up the other day. It came from World War I.
Yes.
And way, way back. And so, like, my grandparents' parents might have enforced that, and then my parents enforced it. And then here's this thing that just sort of goes down through the generations.
Absolutely. And what's also interesting about those processes is that they show that it takes approximately 3 generations to break that.
Right.
So you have the one generation that has experienced the trauma, and then they put it on to the next generation, and then the grandchildren also get it from the parents. But then it's either the grandchildren or the next generation that says, wait a minute, this is really causing a lot of negative shit in the family. Somebody's got to grow up and get over this. So, but it shows, to repeat, that it takes about 3 generations to break.
And how can people actively work to break those?
Well, I think you have to recognize it first, and that's the hardest part, because everybody has an ego, and everybody has some level of a fragile ego. And what usually happens is you become an adult and you recognize that you're doing it, and that's incredibly uncomfortable.
Right.
Like those moments when you're like, oh my God, I was just my father, or I was just my mother. But those are the processes that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to say, oh shit, I hated that when I grew up. It made me so upset. I have got to work on this so I don't do this to my own kids or my partner, for example.
Right. So you start to see and be aware of your own patterns in your own life.
You have to have that self-reflection and go through that discomfort to say, okay, I have a choice right now. I can either make some changes or I can ignore this because it's making me feel shame, and I can just keep carrying it on.
Right. And some people have the ability or the facility to do that, and some people don't. I worked for years and years as an artist, a painter, and sort of spending a lot of quiet time, a lot of introspective time, and sort of thought like, oh, I got a handle on that. And then when I started seeing a therapist, I was like, oh my God. I had no handle on any of it.
Yeah.
And I think I went in my first day. I was like, I kind of got this figured out. And she's like, okay.
Sure you do.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
So if people don't really have the facility for that, I mean, sometimes friends tell me, like Matt here, he's like, oh, you say amazing all the time.
Apparently that's a very American thing. And a girlfriend of mine from Sweden brought that to my attention about 10 years ago. I said, can you imitate an American for me? And she went, sure. And she went, amazing.
Oh, geez. Well, I do love my country, even though I see all of its warts and all. So if people don't have that, or have some of it, or have enough of it to understand that there's things they can come see you.
They can.
And do you said earlier in a sentence that for the specialized clientele you serve a particular group of people, or you sort of help everybody?
I am now focusing on being a generalist practitioner, which means I will pretty much serve anyone that connects with me. I don't work with children. I don't work with teenagers, and I'm trying not to work with the elderly, just because really, what can I bring to the elderly who have lived so much more of a life than me? And I think you have to consider that. I can be incredibly well trained and not be able to firsthand understand the life that they have lived or the things that they've gone through. And so there are some young practitioners that will do that. But for me, it's so important that I can really understand and relate to and respect adversity and the experiences. So I'm kind of, the middle-age therapist right now.
Well, I got to imagine that's 90% of people who are in therapy, or
absolutely
between 30 and 60 anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you come to the point in life where you usually want to make changes and you can afford therapy.
Right.
You have a career, you can pay for it. I have worked with teens in the past, but I had to shut that down during the pandemic because the risk is so high. I couldn't see them in person. I was terribly concerned. There's a ton of risk factors with teens.
Such as?
Cutting, suicidality, eating disorder. The internet has made all of this so much worse.
Right. So the stakes are a little bit higher, I guess, for a therapist-patient.
Yes. And I do like them. I do well with them. But until I can see them in person and I can really feel everything that's going on in the space, I would prefer to wait.
And what percentage of you call them clients?
Patients, whatever you want to call them.
What percentage of them do you see in person now? None. So it's all via Zoom or Skype or?
I had a very brief period over the summer when people were getting vaccinated, and I let a couple of people in with very specific guidelines. And then it just, everything went to hell again, and I don't feel safe.
Right. Oof. So have you taken on new clients during the pandemic who you've never met in person?
Yeah, I have. Yes.
And that must be kind of different.
It is different because I don't have that, the body language, even that metaphysical exchange that happens in a room where you can feel a shift of someone's energy. And that's been a challenge, but I've adapted and I've learned new ways to connect with people.
Right.
But it's not ideal, but thank goodness we've had it. Because can you imagine if there was no access to mental health care, if you couldn't talk to anyone?
Ugh. I can't. I mean, it'd be terrible, especially during the pandemic, which, has not been bad for me, knock on wood, but for lots of people, seems like it's a really, really difficult
It's been terrible. Especially, I've seen some of the worst levels of depression in my single clients who still live in Manhattan or Brooklyn, somewhere in the city, for example.
Right.
They're locked in their apartments. They're by themselves.
Oof.
Yeah. I mean, they just turn the computer on and I'm right there.
Yeah.
which has been fantastic.
That's nice. So how many clients do you have at any sort of given point in time?
Gosh, it's so different right now.
Right.
I'd say I would rather say how many sessions I do a week.
Sure.
So I'd say like between 25 and 40 sessions.
That sounds like a lot.
I'm so tired.
Right. That sounds like a whole bunch.
Whereas before the pandemic, it was more like 15, 25. But I just,
Right.
I also do some pro bono work now, and I've taken on people that can't afford me or can't afford therapy in general. And
That's
a
sweet.
lot of us have done that. So I am working a
That's
lot
so
more.
nice.
Thank you. It just made sense.
Yeah.
I don't do this just to make a living. But it's more than ever. I'm taking a break. Actually, I've started my vacation today.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here
I love
to kick
this.
it off.
This is a lot of fun. And I'm going to take a break until, like the 5th or 6th so I can reset.
And if any of your patients like really need you,
So this time around, I've set them up with emergency people.
okay.
Yes. Whereas in the past, I would say that, if it's really, really important, and for me, that means you're going to hurt yourself.
Right.
You might hurt somebody else, whatever. It has to be pretty severe. I would tell them, you can shoot me a message and I'll see if I can get on the phone.
Right.
But because I have had my own grief and my own anxiety throughout this pandemic, I have made it clear, like, I'm here for you, but I really have to take this break so I can come back strong again.
Right. And I was going to ask you said 25 to 40 patients a week.
Well, it's sessions.
Sessions.
Some people
Sorry.
will come twice a
right,
week.
sessions.
Yeah.
Still seems like a lot of work and a lot of giving of you and your energy.
Yeah, I would say that I hold energy and I hold space and I listen more than I do anything.
Okay.
So people think
But-
that therapists... Go ahead, what?
I was just going to say listening requires a lot
it's
of
a
energy.
ton. I mean, at the end of the day, I am done.
Right.
Done.
Right.
So,
And you come home, the kids are like, "Mommy, mommy, mommy."
I'm like,
Billy
don't
was mean.
touch me. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot, but you go through training to compartmentalize that, and
Yeah.
I don't think you would go into the work if you didn't think you could handle it.
Right.
Because I remember in school watching the first semester people disappearing, and they just weren't going to be able to do it.
Dropping out.
Oh, yeah.
Starting to understand that's
This is
not for
not for
them.
me.
Right. So are there 50-minute hours? Is that standard?
Yes, I do 50 minutes.
And so I'm guessing for many days you have like 4 or 5 or 6 in a row.
Yes.
And you have 10 minutes off between.
Yes.
To take notes
Yes.
on what happened and also to try and sort of like reboot your own energy.
That's right.
What do you do to reboot?
Often I listen to music.
Van Halen.
Metallica.
Yeah.
The gentle stuff. Listen to music, do a quick meditation, go outside for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes just to reset myself. Get up, stretch. I like to move a lot in those 10 minutes, even if I'm just walking around the office. Just kind of try to shift myself back into the right space.
Right. And do you move around during a session?
There are some sessions that I actually will guide my clients through something like the meridian tapping, like you had brought up before. And then I have some that I will stretch with them on the video because they're
nice.
so sedentary or they're struggling so much that I can just see that they're stuck within themselves. So I'll say, like, let's get on the floor. Like, put your
Right.
computer on the floor. I'm going to get mine on the floor, and I will guide them through a stretch.
Nice. Love that.
you.
So, yeah, meridian tapping, we were talking about that before we started, I think, but it's so interesting to me that you have this whole other realm. I mean, as you say in your website, it's
Yeah.
Eastern and Western, and Western to me is like, talk therapy.
Right.
And Eastern is everything else.
Yeah, yes.
What in the world is meridian tapping?
Well, it's interesting because there is a real connection to Western medicine because it deals with, again, neurofiring and reprogramming the brain.
Yeah.
And it did stem from and originate from Chinese meridian spots on the body, which is pressure points, but they're all connected to something in the brain and the nervous system.
Right.
So, at the time it was considered, more spiritual, witchcraft, if you will. But really what we're doing is reprogramming the brain. So depending on what area you tap on your body, whatever meridian spot you focus on, there is a neuro passageway that is connected to. And as you're tapping, you're saying something or you're thinking something very specific, and it basically is rerouting that train track, if you will, to think differently.
Okay.
Because we get stuck in habits of the way we think, and we jump into thought patterns very easily.
Yeah.
But you can change that.
Right.
But it requires something like EMDR or tapping. You know, there's a lot of different theories.
What? Or tapping?
EMDR.
Okay.
It's another type of...
Keep going. This show should be called The Rabbit Hole. What in the world is EMDR?
EMDR is another way of reprogramming and reprocessing the brain. And it was originated by observing the eye movement when we're in our deepest state of sleep, in REM sleep, because what your brain is doing while you're sleeping is processing.
Right.
And that's why the eyes are going from right to left to left to right, and so on and so forth, because what's happening in the brain is the neurons are going from right to left to left to right. And that's how it finds a space for all the experience that it's had, because we store things in our brain.
Right.
Everything's in there. Everything you've experienced is in there. You don't know how to recall it necessarily.
No.
But it's in there.
For example, like, why did I go into the other room? It takes forever to recall that.
That's been happening a lot. I'm like, why am I in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Why am I in the kitchen right now? So these theories just, what they do is they really do help to reroute the neuropassageways.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
And is this theoretical, or is there hard science behind these things?
Oh, there's hard science now behind it.
So when you demonstrated this, the neural tapping, you're tapping your forehead and your temple and
there's loads
your upper lip.
Yeah, there's one here. There's one on the side of your body.
Do they all go to particular places?
Yes.
That are aligned with different kinds of emotions? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
So the ones that I focus on, that you saw me kind of, touching and looking at, these are, specific for mental health and anxiety. But then there's other parts to relieve other vital organs and discomfort. I mean, it's incredible. It's fascinating.
Right.
I don't know all of those. My acupuncturist does, and he teaches me things and he works on me. But I know the ones that are, that gravitate towards anxiety.
Yes, and that's what it's setting aside, especially for anxiety.
Yeah, or depression, anger. I mean, whatever the feeling is that you're trying to work through, those are the meridian points that would help that.
Right. Just amazing. You, like I said, way overqualified to be here, but thanks again.
Oh, gosh, please.
And also, after all that, I totally need a drink.
Oh, yeah.
And as is the tradition here on Friday afternoon, the guest brings a drink. But Allison brought a drink by way of soliciting Matt, our fabulous founder and engineer,
because he makes the best martinis.
Make a drink for us all. It's all the same to me. I'm about to enjoy a fabulous cocktail.
I did offer to make. Bring
you did,
supplies.
and I was like, that sounds great.
He makes the best.
So he's measuring out something. I'm sure it's some really fancy ass gin into a beaker. So while Matt's making this cocktail, how did you get into this? When did you first realize that this was, I'm guessing, really fascinating to you?
Great question. I knew as a child that I was going to go into healing. I knew at a very young age. Yes.
Sorry, did you think of it as, quote, healing at the time?
Oh no, I needed to find a word for it. But I knew that I was aware of things and I was feeling things that other people weren't necessarily feeling or understanding.
Can you give me an example?
Well, like when someone walked into a room as a kid, I could immediately feel if they were in a good mood, in a bad mood, if they were depressed, if they had just experienced something. I just had this connection to the energy that people give off. And I remember my mother, when I was a child, saying, I don't know what it is, but you've got this like ESP thing. Because she didn't even know what to say about it either.
That's so cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's so cool that your mother was respecting this thing, seeing it, and
I think they were confused. My father would say the same, and then they really had no idea what to do with me most of the time. I remember, going through school, and they were like, "What do you think you're going to go to college for?"
I would have sold you to the carnival. Yeah, we're going to make a few bucks on her.
They might have tried a few times, now that I think of it, but Yeah, they would acknowledge it, but they didn't know what to do with it or what to call it.
Right.
And I think they just sort of stepped back because it wasn't very clear. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't like Allison's going to go into technology or Allison's going to be a this or that. They were like, what are we going to do with this one?
Right.
But I just knew, and I kept, I started training and healing in my teens.
And what were some of the first healings that you were a part of?
Seimi, which is also a type of energy healing. It's a Japanese...
Seimi? Huh.
Yeah. And the other interesting thing is that people that were healers... It's my beret, I'm so sorry.
I'm just trying to make room for Matt's
I will
pouring
move my
these
raspberry beret.
gorgeous-looking cocktails. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. What was I saying? Oh...
Seimi.
I think we kind of know each other. I think when there's someone that's like you, you can feel each other out. And I was fortunate enough, thank you, to always encounter people that looked at me and were like, hey, you, want to come to a healing class?
That's so cool.
It was so cool. And it made me feel a little less awkward than I was feeling.
Well, that's the best. I mean, to find like-minded individuals, to get validation or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, cheers. Here's to that. And here's to your parents for not, at least not discouraging it.
Yes, true. Yes.
All right, Matt, what is this?
That's
this is
lovely,
so
Matt.
danged delicious.
Well, this is our Christmas martini. So we're using a good dry gin, Cotswolds, and obviously some dry vermouth, and just to make it a little Christmassy, an Austrian pine liqueur.
That's
This is
fantastic.
so danged delicious.
Yeah, it's really, I told you,
orange
he makes the
bitters, of
best
course.
martinis.
So good. And orange bitters. It's really delicious. Thank you, Allison,
beautiful. Of
for
course.
causing this martini to happen.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Matt, for
My pleasure.
also causing it to happen. So when you were a kid, I'm very interested in first healings.
Yeah. I wasn't doing individual healings as a kid.
Right.
But I would participate with other people and in groups. But I just always remember when someone was sick or something was wrong, I was like, I've got something in me for this. And it was just calling me.
And how would that come out? What would you do to...
Well, I remember a friend of mine got very sick in high school. Sadly, she developed a brain tumor and, ended up bedridden at one point. And I remember just sort of going over to her and feeling the urge to put my hands on her because I felt like, back to the word energy, that there was something that I had to give or something that I could give. And she had said, oh my gosh, I feel something in me. I feel relief from the pressure right now when you're touching me.
That must have been an enormous moment for you, too, to start to feel more clearly that
Yes.
you've got something.
Well,
And
yes.
that people can use it.
Yes.
And benefit from it.
Absolutely. But at the same time, I thought, I know you feel this because
Right.
I feel it in myself.
Gads. You felt their malady in you.
Yeah, and I just could feel, when you're an artist and you have an idea and something is in you that's going to come out and people are like, whoa, look at that piece. And you're like, well, yeah, it was in me and now I've put it out here for you to see.
Right.
It was very similar. I had something in me that I knew would come out and help people. And so, yes, it was very validating, but I already knew that was there.
Spectacular from a young age. No, I mean, because most people, I think I was 30 when I sort of knew what powers I had or suspected what powers I had. And I think lots of people never come to join together with what their real powers are.
Well, I think it wasn't until I was in my early 30s that I said, I don't care what anybody thinks or anybody says. I don't care if anybody wants to think I'm unusual. I have to do this.
Okay, so spectacular again. A toast to that. That's so
well,
good.
Thank you.
So when it makes it sound like at some point, and it seems that this definitely would happen at some point, people were giving you a hard time about that. Your peers or other kids in the school or.
I don't know if I I wasn't teased or bullied, but
or burned at the stake, even. I mean,
fortunately, I was not. But I think
thing.
years back, I would have been burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
I've had multiple people joke and call me a witch, and now I'm like, yeah, great, fantastic, whatever you want to call me.
Going back to the playground, and that's what I came up with.
Yeah.
Was witch.
No, but it was something that I felt like people would judge if I spoke about it. I guess I felt a little awkward.
And so when you were about 30, you sort of came out.
Yes. Well, when I was 30, I had been healing in other modalities. And when I was 30, that's when I decided, you know what? I've got to get a clinical license because I can do this on many different levels. I can reach so many more people. I can perhaps get some kind of insurance coverage for those who can't afford it. So let me go get another degree so I can really put myself out there.
Right. Insurance companies. So people's insurance companies can pay for their treatment with you.
They can't
if you have
pay,
the letters after your name.
Yeah. In my case, I have people get reimbursement. So they'll
Right.
pay me up front. And then if they provide paperwork, I will sign off on it. And some
Right.
people get 60 to 80% back, which is tremendous.
It's nice.
But it was definitely then that I decided, like, okay, I've got to do this on a bigger scale. I have to get out there more.
And so you started collecting certifications. and right now, what letters follow your name on your business card? Is there even room for all of them?
Yeah, well, I'm a certified coach, and then in the LCSW, and it's not that many letters.
Okay. Because some of the certifications don't give you, like...
Yeah, they don't give me extra letters necessarily.
Oh,
I get
well.
extra titles. Like if someone says, oh, I need somebody that knows neuropsychology or, neurofiring, I'm like, oh, yeah, I have a certification in that. I can do some of that with you.
Right.
But I'm not a neuropsychologist. So I do what I can do, and then I would refer to someone who has a further specialty.
A neuropsychologist.
I'm not a neuropsychologist.
Seems kind of... But you have certifications in
Yes.
applied neuropsychology.
I do.
And neuroscience.
Yes.
But that's not the same as...
But I don't have a doctorate
A doctor- okay,
as
I
a
gotcha.
psychologist.
So, neuros. So, neural reprogramming. You must do that with some of your patients.
I do it, and I do it with myself, too.
How? What are...
Well, I do tapping on
okay.
myself. And I also have
The
my own
meridian tapping.
supervisor. Yeah. I think to be a really good practitioner, you have to have somebody taking care of you as well.
Okay.
Because you can be fantastic at other people's issues and then get emotionally lost in your own.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so,
Hi,
hey,
here I am.
everybody.
Yeah. Here's everybody.
Exactly. So I have someone that helps me when I get overwhelmed, and then I try to practice what I preach.
Well, that's tough. I think that's just going to be the end of the show if we're going to talk about practicing what you preach. And who is that person? Are they nearby?
They are. I don't know if I can say their name.
You don't
so
have
I'm not
to.
gonna.
I mean-
Yes, they are. I was seeing someone in the city for many, many years, and then when I moved up here and the pandemic hit, I wanted someone that was close by, and I found someone somebody referred me to them. Yeah. So I have someone who I think's wonderful.
And so how did that happen? You were referred and you just went for a session to see how you liked it?
Yeah. You just go and you see if it's a match. It has to be a good match. You're going to go in there and you're going to tell this person the most vulnerable things about you. So
Right.
it has to it's almost like a first date working out. It has to be like that. There has to be some kind of chemistry.
Yeah.
So I went in and I had heard about this person and I really liked her and I felt very safe.
And so you met in person. This didn't happen during the pandemic.
No, it happened just before.
That's nice.
Yes.
Do you think that could have worked out via Zoom?
Yes,
Okay.
I do.
Because the energy that you felt from, the connection.
Yeah.
Matt, I'm sure I'm fine. Thank you.
Matt, I have 2 small children. I will have more in
Yeah.
a few minutes. I don't think I've had enough yet. No, I think it could have worked out. I'm also, maybe I'm more open because I do the work. That's not true for everybody, but again, for me, it's a responsibility.
Right. Well, that's great.
Thanks.
A responsibility to you. It's like in the airplane, like putting your
We'll put my mask on
first.
before I put them on my
Or you-
children.
right.
100%. That is a fantastic analogy for that. You have to take care of yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh, that's great. And so how often do you speak to this person?
Every other week, usually. And then sometimes she'll say, like, I feel like you could take a month off and you could come back. And so it's
Right.
sort of, it fluctuates
That's
depending on what's
sweet.
happening.
And why, for what reasons does she say, I think you could take a month off?
I guess I'm not falling apart, or
What makes you fall apart?
I don't know if I fall apart, but I definitely have my own moments where I kind of lose it, or I have 2 small children. I have a husband. I have 2 dogs. I have my career. I have my own, like pursuits, and things get overwhelming. And this pandemic is a nightmare.
Right. How old are the kids?
7 and will very soon be 10.
Nice. When?
Yeah.
What's the 10-year-old's
Awesome.
birthday? What's the 10-year-old's birthday?
January 24th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said you have other pursuits. What do you do when you're not doing these things?
I practice martial arts.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Wow.
I do. I practice.
Now, I listened to your interview with Dana Hoey.
Oh my God,
I
I
should
love
say
her.
this. In addition to the stuff that I read about Allison, she also has a show on this massive network called RadioFreeRhinecliff.org.
I
And
do.
it's called Talk to Allison. And you interview people with often a sort of like therapeutic.
I try to incorporate. Yes, I try to find a way. I mean, I'll pull you on, and we'll do a show, and I'll find.
Good luck.
Your signs could
close book.
totally be. Your signs could help with mental health, depending on how you use them and what you did with them.
It'd be amazing, I mean, I give advice to friends, and sometimes it's really appreciated and seems very helpful and stuff. It's a great feeling. So
Yeah.
you're doing this all the time, and it must be kind of a high to.
I don't give a lot of advice. You're actually told not to do that.
Why no? But I mean, but you're sharing insights. You're leading them
Yes,
to.
you guide them to their own insights.
Yeah.
So I would say there's a high when you see someone break through something.
Right.
Or start to recover, or start to have an insight. But sometimes that takes a year, 2 years. I've had a client. I've worked with her now for 6 years, and it took 3 years to finally have that moment where I was like, "Oh my God, this is gonna work."
And so this is going to work. So potentially you had that thought. It took her 3 years to get to it. You had the thought like week 2 of your meetings, but you don't want to lead her. You don't want to just tell her.
You can't.
And why? Why can't you?
Because going back to neuroprocessing and how the neurons develop, it has been proven in research that people do not make real change unless they come to it themselves, because the brain
Right.
has to create the passageway
Right.
with the experience, versus where you tell someone to do something, they don't have the road, they don't have the tunnel they've gone through. You've just dropped information on them, and it's narcissistic to tell someone how to do something.
Right.
That means you assume you know
Right.
everything about what they've gone through. You can relate to every second. You know what it has been like for them to be alone. And to tell someone to do something can also make them defensive, because they
Sure.
think, what are you talking about? You don't know the things that happen when I'm by myself, or what
Right.
I've really been through that's gotten me here. But the brain will make a change if it goes through the process of discovering the insight itself. So
Right.
it can be very detrimental if you tell someone what to do.
Right. It's, yeah. I mean, it's like learning versus just like rote memorization.
Right.
And
right.
if you're learning, then
And
that's
you learn the theory,
Yes.
and the reason, and you have the emotional response.
like giving a man a fish versus teaching him to fish.
to go fishing.
Yeah, I'm just going to
Exactly.
keep up with
I like it.
lame
It's
analogies.
funny because I use analogies all the time.
You do?
I do.
In your practice?
I do.
And is that by design, or that's just your personal take as it is mine?
That's kind of me. They just come out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
And they
interesting.
come out very organically, because if you were to say to me right now, like, give me an analogy, I would be like, oh,
Right.
shit, I don't know.
Yeah.
But if something happened, one would likely come out of me.
All right. Well, we've got like
We have
25
time.
minutes left. If it happens, I want to hear one.
I will give you one if it happens.
Yeah, that's good. And so you said you're doing boxing?
No, I practice
Martial arts.
martial arts.
Of
I
a different
practice
sort.
Tang Soo Do. It's a Korean form of martial arts.
And does Dana do that as well?
Yes, that's
Okay.
how I met Dana.
Dana Hoey, who was your guest a
Yes.
couple of weeks ago in your show.
Yes.
Who's an amazing artist.
I love
and
her.
yeah.
Yes. I absolutely love her.
That's so good.
It feels like family to me.
That came across in the talk. It was really sweet.
Yeah, she's lovely. We practice Tang Soo Do together. I've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. I did box. When I lived in Brooklyn, I actually trained with one of Don King's trainers. So I
great.
have a history of combat. And then when I was younger, I dabbled in Taekwondo, but my parents, again, were kind of like, no, you need to be a dancer. So I ended up dancing for 20 years, which hell.
You know.
It wasn't so bad either.
Right.
But I always wanted to practice combat. Like, I've wanted to do this my entire life.
Right. All right. Well, the questions are piling up. I want you to tell me about Tang Soo Do and also tell me, where were you a kid?
I was a kid in New Jersey.
Where?
Old Bridge, Central Jersey.
Central Jersey.
So when I lived there was lots of farms, and there was a woman that would ride a horse through the neighborhood, and beautiful trees. And now, I haven't been there, oh gosh, I think I was 22 when I left. I'm turning 45 in a couple of months, so I haven't been there in a long time. But I visited, and it's a completely different world. It's like strip malls, auto body strip.
Went to my neighborhood in Cincinnati where I grew up this past summer. I'm like,
my gosh.
what?
Where are the
Just
trees?
completely different.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I don't go there. I have a friend or two that I'll still speak to that has stayed there, but I'm feeling very removed.
So Central Jersey I'm sorry, go on.
However,
Yes. She's holding her finger up like a school marm.
when I need to, I pull the jersey out, and I'm very proud of that. Like, I feel like we get trained there.
Okay, what does
somehow
that
to
mean?
not put up with
Pull
bullshit.
the jersey out. I got a friend
Like,
from
I'm just-
Jersey.
I'm kind of a 3 strikes and you're out gal.
Yeah.
I'm very kind. I'm very friendly. But if you cross me a few times, that's it. It's
My
over.
Jersey friend's the same way.
Yeah, I think they like
She's
put
like,
it
I
in the
will
water.
if they cross me, I won't bury them. Yeah, I'm like, huh.
So Naveen will be on with customer service, and they'll be giving him a hard time, and he'll say, "Trust me, you do not want me to put my wife on the phone."
And
I don't
and they
want to
look
get
up
like
your
that.
name. They're like,
They're
yeah, you're right.
Shit. Yeah.
So where are you in Central Jersey? Was it Taylor ham or pork roll?
Oh gosh, I think pork roll.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember. Definitely
Just
diner
curious.
coffee.
I don't know where the Maginot line
pork
of.
roll. Yeah, although I didn't
that
really
nomenclature
eat them. I
is.
just remember them being present. But definitely,
Did you grow up eating that?
no. I think I ate everything else, but
Yeah.
lots of diner food.
Oh yeah.
Lots of coleslaw, lots of turkey burgers, lots of
Ew.
pancakes.
Turkey burger. And I'm sorry.
Rubens.
The martini is taking effect, and the
Please
lips
do.
are becoming looser.
Fine with me.
And so, when did you leave there?
I think I was like 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you go to college nearby where you grew up?
Well, I ended up going to college in New Jersey. My undergrad, I ended up going to William Patterson. I was going to go to NYU. Unfortunately, my mother died very abruptly and very suddenly right as I was getting into college.
Oof,
and
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, thank you. And so that really shifted the trajectory that I was supposed to have, that I wanted to have.
Right.
But at the same time, I think it's part of the reason that I'm as driven as I am, because I had that perspective so early to see life, be there in one moment and then gone in the next.
Right. And how did that translate to drive, as you just put it?
Well, I just realized I could die at any moment.
Sure.
I just knew that, like, I could get sick. My mother was sick when I was younger, when I was a teenager. And then she went into remission for 5 years, and then she died of a massive heart attack. Which,
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So she had cancer, I'm guessing.
She did.
Remission.
She had cancer.
And then the heart attack got her.
Yeah. But the heart attack was a result of aggressive chemotherapy.
Right.
That was 91 that she was diagnosed. And so, it was so aggressive back then. It destroyed
Right.
everything. And so it ended up destroying her heart tissue.
Gotcha.
And she did have a heart attack. This is, I don't want to say funny, but the irony was that when you're out of cancer for 5 years, they say that's it. You're in remission. You're in full remission. It's not coming back. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Have you had cancer? Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So she had just had that doctor's appointment about a month before where she was cleared. They were like, "You're good. Celebrate."
Egads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to school in New Jersey. But then, as soon as I graduated, I was like, okay, now what am I going to do?
Uh-huh.
I have much more that I want to do.
And Dad remained.
Yes, he's alive.
Wow.
I don't have much of a relationship. Unfortunately,
The body language when I asked about your dad was really,
He's alive.
I'm not trained in all these modalities, but I could tell.
I'm very transparent. He was dating someone from his bereavement group a month later, and he didn't handle it very well. And
With you had siblings?
yes, and sister, and he just, he just didn't handle it well.
Right. And when you say well, I mean, part of that sounds like to your liking.
Well, it was very neglectful. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
And I was still fairly young.
He
So talk about my trauma that you
became
were going to
less.
dig into.
Yeah, he became less present in a moment when you really needed him to be
Much
more
less
present.
and was not super dad to begin with.
Right.
So
And how's your relationship now? It sounds like it's not so.
it's not very, it doesn't really exist much at the moment.
And how do you feel about that?
I feel good about it.
Why?
Because I worked for many years to improve my relationship with my father, and I tried to have multiple conversations that were cultivated by a therapist with me.
Right.
And in order to repair a relationship, you have to have both sides willing
Yes.
to work.
Right.
And I wasn't experiencing that. And he had done some things and said some things that were very inappropriate and unpleasant. And I thought, well,
Yeesh.
he's been doing this my whole life in front of me to people. And then something happened, and he said something in front of our older daughter, and Naveen and I were like, that's it.
Right.
And so I don't recommend estranging to anyone. It's very difficult.
Me neither.
You essentially choose to be an orphan. That's a tough thing. However, if you're in a situation that is incredibly toxic, that is really affecting your mental state and your performance as a parent or a partner or a friend, and day-to-day affects you, sometimes you have to do it.
Right. Well, or affects your kids.
Exactly.
That makes the decision pretty easy.
Very easy.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Will he call tomorrow on Christmas? Do you all celebrate Christmas?
No.
Is there a tree?
Yeah.
Presents under it?
Not yet, because the dog will eat it.
All right. Well, that kind of counts as celebrating Christmas here
we
in
celebrate
Consumerist America.
we celebrate in our home, but I'm not going to see my father for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yeah. No, we celebrate. Yeah, my house is like fire hosed on the inside right now. Christmas decorations.
Like a Hallmark movie.
Oh yeah.
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 That's nice. Yeah, I miss that sometimes. I live by myself. The kids are coming tonight for dinner.
Oh, that's nice.
I got a tree, put some lights on it.
Yeah.
And I don't really.
It's hard.
The house doesn't get decorated.
Yeah. And it relates back to my experience. It's definitely hard. I have that. It's gotten easier, but I have those moments where I'm like, I wish their grandfather was around.
Right.
I wish things were different, but you have to use what you have, and then.
And you got to protect your kids.
Yeah, exactly.
That part's just so simple.
Right.
So yeah, it's hard. The holidays are hard in general.
They are.
And now you're on vacation, leaving all your clients. And
I need a break.
But yeah, I totally get it. But let me ask you this. I mean, because I follow you on Facebook and Instagram and stuff.
Yes.
And on Instagram stories anyway, you'll have like lists of ways to cope with the holiday and stuff. And lately, lots of people are posting this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of your top coping mechanisms or thoughts or nuggets of wisdom for people who are going to be having a difficult time? Maybe you're all alone or whatever this holiday season.
Definitely take it easy on yourself.
Yes.
We are in a situation that happens once in a century at most. I mean, this is the hardest time. I've never seen anything like this in the mental health field.
Right.
And so it's okay if you feel terrible. It's okay if you're depressed. But I do suggest, after you've cried, after you've laid on the couch or done what you had to do, I'm a big gratitude person. So
Right.
I'll wake up in the morning while I'm having coffee, and I will make a little list of the things I'm grateful for, and I don't always feel like doing that. But it does shift the way I'm feeling. It does shift my perspective and my approach towards the day. And even if it's something simple like, oh my God, thank God this coffee is so strong. Really? Really, though.
I love that.
The simple things.
Thank God Matt's filling
Thank
up your
God Matt just
martini
gave me
glass
more
again.
booze.
Yeah. So this morning, for example, what was on the list?
I woke up at 5 a.m.
It's when I wake up.
By choice, or is that just when your internal alarm clock
just
goes
when I
off?
wake up, yeah.
I have to set an alarm still. I woke up at 5 a.m. My dog was, I have a fairly new puppy. She was kind of jumping all over me, and I thought, okay, this is really cute. Let me not get annoyed. Let me have a moment where I appreciate this. I had my coffee. I had a couple of text exchanges with Dana, actually, because we were both about to start karate together at 6 a.m.
Oh, nice.
And I just sat for a few minutes with music, and I thought, okay, I'm thankful my children are healthy, my husband and I are healthy, my friends are healthy, I have an amazing group of friends. Just kind of roll through what I'm thankful for.
Okay.
And it's not,
You don't
always
write
feel
it
like
down.
doing, sometimes I do.
Right.
I do recommend writing it down, going back to the way the brain
funny.
works, not typing, writing it down.
Right.
Even if you get rid of it, but just to let it move through you and
What?
come out.
Okay. Why is that better for how the brain works?
Because it's going back to how the brain learns. It goes through a
Gotcha.
process. It's a thought, then it becomes an action, and then it's not just like clicking away at keys. You actually have to go back to something very fundamental, which is learning how to write.
Right.
And
And then
so
there it is. It's real. Your
Right.
gratitude is an actual real thing in
That's
this
right.
piece of paper in your hand.
And I recommend talking. You've got to, like, people are so worried about affecting other people, but you've got to talk. You have to say, like, I'm having a hell of a time.
Even if it's FaceTime or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Connect in any way that you can.
And reach out and share and be proactive
That's
in
correct.
saying, like, hey, I need to just share this with somebody. Can you
Yeah.
listen?
And don't, I don't get offended by people that don't respond to me. I know that's a big thing for people. They're like, well, I sent her a text and she didn't get back to me. I'm like, who gives a shit? If you have a good intention and your intention is to connect or just to make that person feel good, that's plenty. Don't
Right.
worry about it. Like, you have no idea what's going on in that person's life or what they're feeling. Like, if it makes you feel good to send a message, do it.
Right. But don't do it with these attendant expectations
Don't
that
do it
you're
with
going to get this.
expectations. Right. That's like the giving thing. There's a lot of people. Bye. Sorry.
Sorry, we're waving goodbye to Chris.
I think a lot of people give for the wrong reasons. I think it's wonderful how many people donate this time of year and contribute and give, but I do see a lot of people looking for validation or they want a response. Being genuine when you want to make somebody else feel good or give means that you don't want something back.
Right.
So I try to enforce that. And just to initiate with other people. Like, just see how they're doing.
Right. Well, I'll look forward to getting a text from you tomorrow morning.
I send you a message occasionally.
Hey, Norm, how you doing? Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. In addition to the things I've read from you on Instagram, there's been lots of stuff about single people or single parents. And, if you know somebody who's all by themselves,
Yeah.
be extra thoughtful, reach out, tell them you
Just
said
tell them
hi.
I'm thinking of you. That's it.
Yeah.
That can go so much further than you could ever imagine.
And honestly, seems really to be sort of the spirit of the season.
Absolutely.
Is
I
connecting.
Actually, oh, sorry.
No.
No, the other day I came home and there was a gift bag, a Christmas gift bag on my porch. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cute. This must be one of the neighbors giving to the kids.
Right.
And as I walked up the stairs, I saw that it said Allison. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Somebody dropped a gift? And it was a friend, but not a best friend, not a super,
Right.
super close friend. But she left me a bag with IPAs in it. And a Yeti mug to keep my beers cold because she knows I love a good IPA. And it just said, this is for the person that gives to everyone else so you can have a little time to take care of yourself.
Oh my God! It's like
almost
it's a wonderful
cried.
life right on your front
Yes.
doorstep.
I almost cried, but just those little gestures.
Almost.
Almost.
What makes you really cry?
Oh my gosh. Overwhelm makes me cry. I don't
Overwhelmed.
like if I get unbelievably overwhelmed, that will make me emotional.
Right.
Something happening to my kids, I'm really good in the moment, and then when they're safe and everything is over, then I will cry. Then I will let it
Yes.
out.
It's so interesting the way that happens often.
Oh my God.
It's sort of like delayed emotional
Because you
response.
have to-
In the moment,
Yes.
you got to do the thing.
You have to take care of it.
Right.
You have to get things done. You have to protect them. I'm very good in crisis, and then 3 days later, I'm like, oh my God.
or you get a cold.
Yeah.
And you're
or I get
sick.
sick. Right.
Yeah.
What else makes me cry? I think anger. Like, I hate the feeling of tension and anger. I don't like things to be unsettled. Even if I don't know someone well, I'd rather be on good terms and be like, we're good, right? Like, we're good.
It's cool. We're
I don't
all
like-
right.
Yeah. I just don't like that.
How long you been married? Total non sequitur.
11 years in February.
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. And I met
is
your
nice.
husband before I met you, Naveen.
Yes. That's right. Playing tennis.
Gorgeous man. Good tennis game. Really good
great.
tennis game.
Superstar father. Mr. Mom. He's done
that's
all of
the-
the Christmas shopping this year because I've been so busy.
Oh my goodness.
He's done everything.
That's over
wrapped
and above.
Everything.
Wow.
Superstar.
Amazing.
I'm constantly hearing how handsome he is. People are like, I have something I have to tell you. I'm like, I know.
Yeah,
You think
yeah.
my husband's handsome.
Yeah.
Go out for a drink. Take him out for a drink. Get him out of the house.
And how did you two meet?
At the gym.
Oh, well, he's a personal trainer. He has a gym.
So he's an investor. He does a lot of private investing, but his passion is exercise science and physical
Okay.
therapy. So he
Okay.
does have a gym, but Naveen at home, he'll say to me, I have to go in the bedroom. Something just came up on the market, blah, blah, blah. Like he's very invested in
Investing.
numbers and investing. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And he has a history in real estate. Very interesting individual.
And which gym did you meet at?
The Equinox.
Oh, down there in New York City.
72nd. No, wait. Columbus Circle.
Ooh, Columbus Circle.
Yeah.
Fancy. And how long did you live in the city?
Oh boy. Gosh. I want to say a total of 15 years. I lived in the city and then I went to Los Angeles for 3 years and then I came back to the city.
What a blast. I always wanted to live in Los Angeles.
It's intense. I went to acting school. I took a little detour from psychology when my mother passed away because I needed my own therapy, my own releases.
Okay.
And I had grown up dancing and I had grown up acting. So I went out there and auditioned. I went out there with my car and $1,000 and I went out and I auditioned for these 2 schools and I got in, thank God, and got a job waiting tables and bartending and then spent 3 years out there.
Nice. Auditioning and stuff.
Yeah, doing commercials. I did voiceovers. I am the scream in most scenes for the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's so
I have
hilarious.
such a random history.
But that's how the movie business sort of goes. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm the person there in
Yeah,
the
I'm the girl
background.
who did that. Yeah.
And do you miss the acting?
I miss performing. I don't miss the industry.
How come?
I had a very hard time meeting genuine people. I was
Oh.
fortunate and I got into work very quickly.
Uh-huh.
I mean, within a week, I had someone saying, would you like to work on Pirates of the Caribbean? And so
You're like,
I was
yeah.
very, very lucky.
And were you in the union?
I was.
Nice.
I got into the union on that set. But everybody that met me after that was like, who's your agent? How'd you get that? Want to go out? What did you do? How'd you meet that person? How'd you get that commercial? And it was just so depressing.
Oof. Because they were
So
interested in
disingenuous.
you for what you could bring
What
to
I
them.
could give them.
Right.
I made one great friend, also from Jersey.
Also from Jersey. Well, let me just ask about this. Because in a way, aren't all friendships transactional?
I think on some level, yes. However,
You get warmth, you get appreciation, you get love.
you don't get that in Los Angeles.
Really.
No,
You just
not for everyone. Not some people, yes, but
right.
so transactional and cold on some level that
People say that all the time. I mean, I've never lived there. I mean,
Well-
I lived there when I was 4.
I feel like
but-
when you hear the same thing from multiple people, you should believe it.
I think you're right. I'm not always super good at that.
Correct you if you're Nora.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Not necessarily one of my superpowers. Trying to get better. I should
Everything
get
takes practice.
some meridian tapping, some neural reprogramming
I would
to help
teach you.
me become better
I could teach you.
at listening to what everybody in the fucking world says to me. All right, what else? We got 5 minutes left, and what did I miss? What questions?
I don't know.
Oh, come on.
You tell me. You have it all written down. I don't know what to ask
I
myself.
didn't ask any of those. Oh,
What do I ask
here's the
myself?
top of the page is this. I recently saw this documentary called Fantastic Fungi.
I didn't see that.
Oh, you got to see it. And,
Has something to do with mushrooms?
Yeah.
Oh.
And fungi.
But psychedelics?
That's a part of it.
Okay. I'm a believer in psychedelics for mental health.
And have you worked with any patients who did that?
Oh,
and
yeah.
had
I have one right now.
And had a breakthrough?
Yes, I have one right now.
Can you
She's
tell-
doing ketamine.
Okay.
So
which
she did shrooms
is
in the past. So ketamine, I mean, it used to be called Special K on the dance floor in the
right.
90s. It's a horse tranquilizer, but they have
Yeah,
found...
that sounds fun.
But they have found that it has huge influences over the brain and has made tremendous breakthroughs with addiction, mental health, severe depression, severe psychological issues. And so I do have someone right now who's doing ketamine.
And did she seek that out for its therapeutic or reputed therapeutic benefits?
Yeah, but she wanted to do multiple things. She wanted to do talk therapy. She's tried prescription medications, and she wanted to try ketamine to see if it worked. And it's been great. And I know other people who have done it with great success.
And you see the difference in her.
Oh, yeah.
What's the difference?
It's like an openness. She sort of let go of a lot of things. Yeah, there's
you
less
ever-
worry.
Have you ever tried the ketamine?
No, but I've done ayahuasca, and
The
I've done
Special
San
K,
Pedro, and I've done...
And we're all boycotting Kellogg's, by the way, now that I shouldn't
Yeah.
mention Special K. Ayahuasca and what else?
San Pedro.
I don't even know what that is.
It's mescaline, essentially.
But then there's
there's a lot of...
DMT or something, the God
Yeah.
particle.
Well, the DMT is part of ayahuasca. There's a lot of DMT in that. And so I
Right.
did do...
But go on.
I did do a retreat with it because I knew that people wanted to start doing it, and I don't ever suggest anything unless I've tried it myself.
Okay.
So, except in this case, I haven't done ketamine treatment, but I did go to a lot of clubs in the 90s.
Which is some big parties at some big warehouses. you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
And,
Over on the west side. But, I feel that I cannot recommend something unless I've tried it. So I did try ayahuasca, and I had an incredible breakthrough.
what was the breakthrough?
It was actually related to my mother's death. It
Okay.
was the first time in, she's been gone for almost 26 years, and this was only about 3 years ago. I came out of it for the first time at peace with the fact that she had died, like full peace. I was okay. I was processing, I was living, but there was always something in me that was struggling or regretting. And after that, I was like, you know what? This is okay. Everything's okay.
And why? How did that happen? What did you see or hear or experience or feel in the ayahuasca experience that
So
led to that?
it was like, honestly, it was like being strapped to a rocket ship through hell. That's the best way I can describe it.
That sounds horrible.
It was. And it forced me to face my own death, and I feared death, and I was begging for my life and worrying about my children, and it pushes you, and I heard this was possible, it forces you to sort of die, I'm using quotation marks, in this experience. And then you feel incredible peace on the other side of it.
Okay. So
you kind of become accepting of death, and then that shifts your perspective on so many other things.
Right.
So I woke up like, okay, if I died, my kids would be okay, my friends would be okay. It's okay that my mother died.
I hope it doesn't happen. But if you were to pass away, soon or whenever, what would you want your kids to know about you? That they're young.
Yeah.
They know nothing, I guess, substantially, other than how filled with love you really are. What would you really want them to know?
I would want them to know that I love them more than I ever knew it was possible to love anything.
Right.
And I would want them to not regret anything or worry about me not being there, because I'm there in the energy, and I would want them to live their life in the way that they want to.
That's just so freaking gorgeous.
Thanks.
And also, that's it. That's the end of our hour.
Wow, it's so fast when you're on the other side of it.
What a place to end.
Thank you.
I get goosebumps. Allison, I liked you before. I love you now. Thank you so
Likewise.
much for being here.
It was an honor.
And what a treat. And Matt, thank you so much. And thanks
Thank you,
to the Epicurean and everybody here, Patricia and Chris. And everybody have a fabulous Friday night and a happy holiday season and Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Thanks for
happy
tuning
holidays.
in. Good night.